What's happening, everybody? So welcome back to the channel. I am the Landlocked Shipwright, and today we're going to do a tool build. So a while back, me and my friends were feeling kind of stressed, so we decided to have some fun, and we turned the garage here into a rage room. We hung up plastic around here, and I think I've actually got a video here of us smashing a bottle. Feel better? So during that process, it was a great time and all that. We decided to get out some of my tools and use those along the way. We had some pretty stout glass bottles that we were breaking. So anyway, during the massacre, my big wooden mallet here suffered a loss. It broke. So I'm a little upset about that because this thing's been with me a while. It helped me build my sailboat, but tools break. You remake them all the time. So I've decided we're going to remake this. So I've got a piece of Osage orange back here that we're going to break up. Probably keep the hackleberry handle since it's a good cross-grained piece of wood that doesn't break very easy. Obviously, it's survived this. And going to use some hand tools and just get into it and get to work. So we've got our material set off here, and I think this is the piece I'm going to try and start with first. So, off camera, I tried using just the fro first, and just a quick lesson. So, this is a fro. This is a tool that ordinarily you would take a split of material like this and put the blade in here, and then you'd hammer from the back side, and it would split off, but only on certain woods. Wood has to be able to do a process of what's called riving, which is splitting along a grain line. And Osage is pretty hard, and hammer as I might, I just could not get it to go. So what I did was I took the axe, my shaving axe here, and set it in and just drove it in from the backside. So this started us a split down the side, which we can then open up. Not too comfortable doing that with a hand axe, just for some fact the accidents that could happen. So I think what we'll do is take our fro and put it in the split and see if we can't use that to finish it off. There we go. Not very gracefully, but we've got the start of a flat here that we can work on and see if we can't smooth that out. So, yeah, we're getting there. But once we get that done, we can go through, start getting this squared up. But work on that. So, got our handle out here, and we've got it marked up. So what we're going to do is form a square tenon on the top that comes down the thickness of the block. Then we're going to cut a shoulder here for it to sit up in there, so that'll help square it against it. And then we've laid out the cuts for our handle, so what we're going to do is cut this to be about an inch wide at the bottom here, and then I'll take a spoke shave and we're going to start filing those down and kind of contouring that handle. Then we've also laid out the through tenon on the block. So this will be, we'll cut this mortise out. So what we'll probably do is start over on the drill press behind me and drill each of the four corners with as small as bit as I can get to go through the entire block. And then take a Forstner bit, cut the middle of this out on both sides, and then go through with a larger bit to actually just hog out that material. Let's talk about how much of an upgrade this is for just a second. So the old hammer was made out of hickory and hackleberry. Hackleberry is just a good cross-grain wood. I don't really know that much about it. I just had it. So whenever we're talking about hammers, specifically wooden hammers, hardness is something that really matters because you don't want to wear down the surface or get it dinged up by what you're hitting. So it needs to be good and sturdy. So hickory, whenever you talk about hardness of woods, it's the Janka hardness. Janka hardness is how many pounds of force it takes to push, I believe, a 1-inch ball bearing into the wood a certain amount, whatever that deformation is. So hickory has a Janka hardness of 1820, and it's pretty tough. I mean, it's used for a whole lot of stuff, hammer handles, you name it. So, but Osage Orange, this, which is by and far one of the hardest woods in North America, has a Janka hardness of 2620, more than twice that of what white oak is. It's also incredibly rot resistant and doesn't split very easy. So that's kind of why I really like to use this for the handle. Ideally, if I'd had enough of this Ipe to make the hammer out of, I probably would have. Ipe has a Janka hardness of 3,680, and it's the 9th hardest wood in the entire world. So it's incredibly valuable, and it's one of those that it's like it's actually somewhat on the endangered side because it's been harvested so much for its properties. So the stuff that I have, I feel lucky to get, and only want to take as much as I can anyway, because it's one of those, it's very obviously a tree that if it's over harvested won't be around much longer. Just on a side note, the hardest wood in the world is actually Australian Beloak at 5,060 pounds of force. So when you talk about wood, it's some pretty stout stuff. So we're definitely getting an upgrade by switching this to Osage Orange. So I think let's go over to the drill press, get these holes drilled out. Whew. That was a bit of a chore. There's a lot there. So, as you can see here, started with our 4 points in the corner and then went clean through to the other side with our 1-inch Forstner bit over here. So now it's time to take the chisels to this and square up those corners. There we go. All right. So, combination of chisels and rasps and files. We've got our tent. We've got our mortise here. So now that we've got that done, let's move on to the handle. Okay, so tenon fits a little on the snug side, just the way we want it. So I'll slot it in. I think the next thing we'll do is let's go over the bandsaw and work on contouring this handle. Alright, so we've got our handle down to shape. So got this nice tapered profile to it, and it's got a good firm feel to it that I like. So we're going to go with that. So if you remember, the old block that made up the head just kind of split apart into two pieces like this. So don't really want that to happen again. So I think what we're going to do is do a little bit of decorative and a little bit of structural work on this. So I have some scraps of this material, and I think what I'm going to do is run these through the table saw, and we are going to make some tenons that actually tie this all together. And I'm going to do 2 on this side, 2 on this side, 2 on this side, and 2 on this side. And that should actually box in that grain. And we'll get those all put in, and then we'll mount the handle on here in the right configuration and really kind of tidy this thing up nice. So let's go over to the table saw and let's rip up some strips. Okay, so we got our grooves cut, and I forgot to record, but I got the splints also cut out of the E-Pay to make this up. So I think what we're going to do now is just go through and clear out everything that we just made cuts for, and get that all finished down. So I'm going to put you on a time lapse. We're going to clear this out real quick and get these pieces laid in. That was a little bit of a chore. Took a couple chisels, the router plane, but we got all of our grooves into our head, so that's pretty nice. And then went through and got one of our ties all fitted in. So I think the next thing that I'm going to do is go through and fit the rest of them, get them shaved down in place, and then let's get them in glue. What's happening, guys? So our clamps have set up overnight, so let's go ahead and start cracking these off of here and see how we did. So luckily we managed to get all of our pieces slotted in here, and they seem to have held it so far. And there we go. Now we've got all of our ties put in here, so I think that'll do just fine. We'll go through and cut off this excess and get it all nice and cleaned up, and then we're going to put this through the router bit and chamfer off all these faces so they don't chip out whenever we go to hit something with it. So let's get into it.
It's a movie. Red carpet, the lights going through me. Anytime I arrive, it's the new me. Real diamonds on my neck, that's groupies. Flashing lights. All these things come to me. Dressed eyes. All these things come to me. Dressed in price. All my rings got weight to it. You feel that? You feel that? Already it's a classic, classic. If I drop any day, it's a classic. You feel that? You feel that? Already it's a classic, classic. If I drop any day, it's a classic. Any wave that I'm on, it's a classic. Hey, you heard that? Classic, classic, classic. If I drop any day, it's a classic. Any move that I make, it's a classic. Hey, you heard that? Classic. Only do.
All right, so we got our head all made up here. I think that looks pretty good. So, been thinking pretty hard about this, of which side is going to be which here. So, here we've got some sapwood that was left in, and I'm not particularly thrilled about that. But I like this side as the top better. I think it just looks better. So, still got these knots in the end from where the center of the tree was, where the pith came through. And I think I'll probably go back through and fill those up with some epoxy later just to solidify them, but that's for later. So right now, down to putting the handle in this thing. So I made up, went ahead and split the end of that most of the way down. And then we have a wedge left over from cutting our pieces for our side, our ties. So we're going to go ahead and handle this thing. So whenever you do this, that split, I want it to be pressing against the end grain so that it's not slowly splitting this thing open. So there we go. Got her in there. Let's grab another hammer here. There we go. And go ahead and seat this. Oh, pretty good. Oh, all right. Went in pretty well, but I think I forgot a step here that I want to do. So I want to coat this in glue so that when it goes in, it's not just relying on the friction to hold. We're going to go back to our favorite here, the Titebond 3. And let's get that on there. Get all that crud off the top here. Overall, I think I'm pretty happy with the way this build's coming out. The colors look good. And I think it's gonna live a good long time. I really should do a weight on this. Figure out how much heavier one is than the other. But we'll get to that in a minute. I still got to get finish put on this. So there we go. Paste all that on. Oh man, that looks great. Okay. One more time with flavor. So in we go. And then, all right. There she is, seated. Oh, that doesn't look like a comic book piece. I don't know what would. So, get our wedge in here. Already started. Nice part about this Ipe being so tough, it does make for really good wedges. Alright, I don't think we're going to get any more out of that. Oh, tightened up real nice, those edges. We'll wait for that to dry, and then we'll shave that off. Probably leave this tendon sticking out. I kind of like the look of that, bulging out the top there a little bit, a little showmanship. So we're going to let that cure, get some finish on this, and get a weight difference between the two, and see if we can't tidy this thing up. So, a couple days down the road, but glue's cured up. So we got the epoxy put in the ends, and I think that'll stabilize that nicely. So let's, what do you say we get some oil on this thing? I think finish that I'm going to go with on this, because this is supposed to be a working tool. I don't want to put a hard finish on it. Also, lacquer and varnish and all sorts of hard finishes will give you blisters on the handle, so I tend to avoid those on tools. So right now we're going with a good old standard, just some plain old boiled linseed oil. So let's see how this goes. Oh man, look at those colors. That bright yellow. And that'll stay that way forever. This Osage orange doesn't, I've worked with it enough to know that it doesn't turn brown like something like, well, a bunch of other ones, like hackleberry does, or a lot of other exotic woods will eventually turn brown. Now this maintains that golden color, so I think this'll look nice and definitely hold up. So man, that's just looking so good as we get that on there. And it doesn't take much. This stuff is pretty tough. Also, this linseed oil being just a little bit yellow kind of helps bring out a lot of the colors in woods. At least I think it does. It makes them really pop and, you know, get a lot of the vibrant colors out of wood, which is one of the best parts about working with nice woods like this. So, all right, let's go on this handle, all right? So one. Man, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Oh, God, this stuff is nice. Oh, I feel so privileged to get to have just a little bit of it. Oh, I know that there's only so much of it in the world. It takes forever for these trees to grow, 100 years or so. So I do my best not to waste it. The trees are going to die anyway. It's not like they live forever. They don't live thousands of years like a redwood does. We know that. So I try and make use of every little piece that comes down, because otherwise you're just kind of insulting the life of the tree. Well, yeah. How about that? Oh man, that looks good. I like that. That looks so awesome. Well, and that'll cure up and just be really nice. So I'll tell you what do you say we get the, let's get the crane scale out and get a weight on these, huh? All right. Got the crane scale out. Let's get this thing turned on. Got a clamp on here. The weight of it's so small the scale doesn't even measure it. So let's have a look-see. So the original one was 4.6 pounds. Let's just do it again to change that to, that's in freedom units. So in kilograms, 2.5 kilograms. All right, now let's see what the beast has, what Edna has. I think we can call it Edna. All right, here we go. In pounds, Edna weighs 5 pounds even. Oh, funny, it just seems like it's more than that. So let's see what that is in kilograms. That is 2.3 kilograms. Funny, you think it'd weigh more than that, but really doesn't. I'm gonna let this cure up and let's see what Edna Mode comes out looking like when this all cures, eh? All right, everybody. I think that does it for this one. And thanks for watching.